is one that I think ought to enthuse and inspire many of us when we talk about using the internet, particularly within education. It is something that is our go-to place, is something that we're using day in, day out. But part of that we need to consider is how wisely we use that resource. It is so open and free and easily accessible that adding some thought and wisdom to that process is something that's essential. So our panel discussion will be facilitated by someone with whom it gives me its great pleasure to introduce. I don't want to introduce him with any further ado because I'm sure all of you will know. Please put your hands together for Lord Jim Knight.
Thank you very much, and welcome. Thank you very much for coming along. I know if you're a teacher, 4:15 on a Friday is normally about the time you're opening the bottle of wine, and for you to have the commitment and the stamina to come along when maybe you're programmed to be somewhere else is something we're really grateful for. It feels to me we look a bit like a sort of boy band all lining up to sing for you out of the 80s, but happily we're not going to do that. As you've just heard, we are interested in, obviously, in the wonderful potential of the internet and everything that you can find on a browser or even maybe through Siri and Alexa, but we're also worried about some of the downsides of that, or more specifically, I think, the accessibility issues, where we can see in the UN Human Rights of the Child, Article 14, I think it is. Is it 14, Layla? It is. Layla is sort of my fact checker, amongst other things. Article 14 will tell us that every child should have universal access to the internet. But does that just mean physical access? Or does it mean more than that? And it's that more than that that is interesting. So, fact checker.
I feel like Harold Vorderman. Okay.
Tell us, what do we know about that accessibility beyond physical access?
Okay, thanks, Jim. So I'm going to keep it simple and keep it to what education knows. We know about the 3 R's, but do you know the 3 R's of the internet? Because if you get these 3 R's, then really how we harness the internet for education, it's a really good set of pillars. So let me share some facts with you. Great, this is working. So did you know 75% of what's written online cannot be read by most people? That's including adults. So if you take the internet and its current content into an education environment with children who are at the start of their reading career, then this is something you need to consider. Fact 2, and my second R, relevance. I recently found this bit of information, and it takes a while to sometimes, for me, to really understand the gravity of this. So this is from The Economist. There are more web pages for advertisers on the internet than the number of keywords you could ever put into a search engine. It is a commercial entity. So you need to consider that when you're looking for relevant information on the internet. And the third R, which if any of you have been to the session that's just being completed, according to the National Literacy Trust last year, only 2% of our kids have the literacy skills to be able to tell if something's reliable or not, whether it's fake or not. So the question is, what do we do about this as educators?
Thank you very much. And I guess I've rudely introduced the rest of the panel. So you've just heard from Layla Walker. What's your other name?
No, it's Layla Walker.
Layla Walker, who is the UK director at Wise Knows. And then we have Shona, who is a head teacher down in a secondary school.
Yeah.
Down in Somerset. Amy, also a head teacher from Somerset.
Yep.
Yours is a secondary school too?
Secondary school as well, yeah.
Good. Mario is from a company ProWise. What do ProWise do?
Yeah, ProWise is specialized in digital learning solutions. So we develop our own hardware, so digital screens and also personal devices. And
Maybe we'll find out more about that later. But we know enough for now.
and also I pick my moment now. No, but also the software we have, and that is the most interesting part. That we have free digital software to create beautiful presentations for teachers and students.
Yeah.
And in combination with this campaign, we can show that it's a very interesting solution for
I
education.
will give you the opportunity to talk about
Very
it
good, very good.
in a reliable and relevant and listenable way in a moment. And then Ashley from Arbroath, you're a primary school teacher, is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's start back with Shona. Tell us, just in general terms, we have our web browsers. We've all got our favourite browser. It's a gateway to all sorts of stuff, a whole mess of stuff. How do you use that in your school?
Okay, so we use it every day with every child. We're a school who are trying to develop independence with our students, and so they all have mobile devices, and they are able to use their mobile devices when they want to be able to find out the things that they want to know. And so they are constantly using the internet. Sometimes well, for them, maybe, but a lot of the time, probably just taking the first thing that appears on the search, job done, into their work and moving on. So yeah, every day, every second probably, they're there with their devices.
And how then do you work with your staff around any of the challenges around teaching children how to differentiate what is reliable, what is fake, or otherwise?
Okay, so we've, as staff, I guess we've done quite a lot of work on trying to make sure that we have resources that guide them towards the most useful places that we think they might find things. The difficulty with that is that you're working with teachers who maybe don't know a huge amount about the internet themselves, and so they're going to the same sources all of the time and directing the students towards that. So yeah, we've got lots of resources. All of our curriculum is mobilised on a portal, and so we've built our portal to direct the students towards the places. We also teach the students through our computing curriculum how to use the internet. But they're digital natives. They think they know better, I think, sometimes, and probably do technically know better. But whether they're actually mature enough in their brains to know better would be the moot point, I think.
Cool, thank you. Amy, similar story for you?
Similar in many ways, but I'd say that we're probably in a different place than Shona's school in that our students don't bring devices into school, so their use of computing and the internet is very much teacher-led. So it's relying at the moment very much on teachers having an awareness of a student's ability. So we do things where, so every child, for example, we check their reading ages, and those reading ages are available all the time, sort of on the front page of the school portal for the teacher, in their teacher mark books, and they have apps then where they're testing the readability of text they're using or particular websites they might be using. But of course that is taking a huge amount of time from the teacher if they are able to apply that. But it's stopping the child from having the independence which we are trying to encourage across all areas of the curriculum. So,
And yesterday I was talking to someone, the head of the School Librarians Association, about this, and a director from the OUP, the publisher, Oxford University Press, and a bit of a sense that maybe this isn't a new issue.
no.
There's always been lots of content. Ever since we learned to write, there's been content, much of which is inappropriate for children for all sorts of reasons. So why should we be particularly worried about it now?
I think one of the challenges for us, and sort of always challenging ourselves to close the gaps with learners, if you like. So particularly thinking about our children with special educational needs, children who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, children whose parents aren't necessarily there to support them when they're at home doing a piece of research. And actually what we've done inadvertently is placed this huge barrier in front of them, thinking that we're giving them more access to the world. Particularly, Shona and I come from very rural, our schools are in very rural areas, so their exposure to life, if you like, is quite limited. And actually what we've done is put this huge barrier because we're limiting them. They might search as Shona shares and they're just looking at the first item on the list. They're not then able to access it. They may not have somebody sat next to them at home to help them guide them through the internet and the correct pages and where to find the information. And actually what we're doing is making the gap wider again.
Yeah. So previously we might have had where content was more precious, the curation of it was more straightforward, whereas
Yeah.
now we just have this plethora.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
who's going to guide you through?
Yeah.
What about up in our growth in the primary sector? So we've heard from secondary. How are you using the internet generally, and do you see similar problems around the vocab gap and then the accessibility gap between different sorts of children?
Yeah, I'm slightly different because the kids I teach are only 7 years old. So instead of letting them just have free reign on the internet because they'd be completely overwhelmed, they wouldn't be able to comprehend what they were reading, I will look through the internet for relevant things that I know they'll be able to read. I'll put all of that into a presentation,
Yeah.
and then I would let them choose from the selection that I've already narrowed down what they find relevant and what they would like to
Yeah,
write
yeah.
about or speak about.
And so when you're doing that, when you're assembling those classroom materials, how can you be sure, is it just your professional judgment, which is nothing to be say just, I guess, is it your wonderful professional judgment as to what is readable and what is appropriate, or do you get some guidance from somewhere else?
Purely just professional judgment, what's appropriate for them,
Yeah.
knowing my learners, what's going to be appropriate for them, what they're going to be able to comprehend, what they're going to be able to understand.
And then do many of your pupils access the internet at home?
We've got a very mixed batch of kids
Right.
who can access the internet at home and kids who can't.
And I assume that not all parents are best equipped to then make those judgments at home too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you have any technology that's helping you out?
We use ProWise software in most of our classes, so when I make the presentation, I'll make that in ProWise software. If I was to put a video in to help them, I'll use the ProWise software to help me do that as well.
That's a beautiful segue into Marion. So for you as a tech company, both in hardware and in software terms, you have to be mindful then of not just the teachers who are using your product, but the ultimate consumer, the pupils. How much of an issue is this for you?
So maybe it's a good thing to go to the next slide, because what you see over here, this is our ProWise Presenter software. And what we try to accomplish is that we want to create an environment for students and also for pupils to create content, to make presentations, but also to do that in a safe environment. And now with Web for Classrooms that will be implemented in our software, we give our users the opportunity to use the software in a very easy way and also in a safe way.
Yeah.
And that is what we want to offer to our customers. And it's completely free to use. And you know, as a ex-teacher, and I was also an head teacher, and with my educational heart, I'm really happy that we can accomplish this and that we can offer a solution like this for education. For example, Ashley, she's one of our advocates in Angus area, and we get a lot of feedback from our users, and we try to, let's say, transform that feedback into new developments as well. And now with this campaign, together with Tess and also with WiseNose, we show that we are a very interesting solution for actually teachers and students.
And just to sort of challenge back, and Layla, you may want to comment on this too from WiseNose's point of view, but why not, back to the conversation with Ashley, just trust teachers and say, well, they're making materials all the time, they're sharing them with each other all the time. At TES, we see that, you know, over 1 million downloads every day of stuff that teachers have shared with each other.
Yeah.
They can tag it according to the reading age. Job done. Why is that not enough?
Yeah, you know, we also have an open community, and all the users of our software, they can share all the content with each other. But we know, and we have seen the figures in the previous slides, it's really difficult to get the right information from the right spot. And with the implementation of Web for Classrooms, we support teachers and students to get the right content. And for us, it's also important because we want, let's say, the best possible content, and we push that to a higher level with a technology like this.
Okay. Layla, so you know, one of the browsers that I might use would be Chrome, or one of the search engines I might use would be Google. Why don't we just go to Google and say, this is your problem actually. You know, you're the people whose mission it is to give the world access to the world's information, or whatever their mission statement is. Why don't they tag it by readability, and then we can all rest easy in our beds at night?
Because somebody else has already done it before them. So, you know, Google isn't the first to do everything. Not all innovation comes from the big companies.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm really proud to be part of a company called WiseNose that has created the most amazing AI technology that has crawled the internet, has found relevant information. But here's perhaps why the Googles of this world haven't done this bit. There is an element of the human, and that for us as educators is really important. We do the heavy lifting in terms of taking an ocean of information to a swimming pool amount, because that tells you how much is commercial out there. But we do the heavy lifting. You know, teachers haven't got the time to sift through the internet. So we've created machine learning that actually can do that for them. It's like when people compare, say, you know, it's a 21st century skill to use Google, to use Google to use search engines such as that. I just think it's ridiculous. I wouldn't even send my student, a year 7 with low literacy, to try and find key stage 3 information on gravity in a large library, physical library, never mind the internet. We have to scaffold and support learners. And so when they're using things like Google, then potentially they'll become more critical users of it. But back to your question, there's innovation, as you've seen around here, including ProWise as well, who are, you know, top of the game in terms of certain technology, and you don't have to go to the big guy to necessarily see what's best on the market.
Of course. Okay, I think that makes. Are you sold?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the things that excites me about it actually is not just what it can do for our children, and particularly those children for whom there are wide gaps, but actually is what it can do for the profession in terms of teachers returning back to what it is that they want to be able to do, rather than, because this piece of work is done for them. They don't need to spend their time making sure the text is right, because actually if you're using these products, it's done for you already. And that's probably the bit that excites me, is actually giving teachers back their sort of power to concentrate on educating.
Yeah. And Shona, so when you and your staff are making resources, I guess you've got quite a few things you have to worry about. This might take away one of them.
Yeah, I'm really excited by it as well, because one of the big things that worries me is that we are building independence, but we're building it for some students, not for everyone. And I want our least proficient learners to be as independent as the ones who take really naturally to that. And I think solutions like this would enable us to be able to do that for everyone, not just for the kids that we manage to either reach or the ones that we manage to think of a solution for. Because that's the other issue, actually coming up with the way to remove the barrier for someone. And if this could help with that, then that is a really exciting place to be, I think.
Yeah. And Layla, when you are populating your swimming pool,
With Milos.
With all of these, with all of this content where you've assessed the readability, how, different parts of the country, the vernacular in Somerset might be different to the vernacular in Arbroath. How do you ensure that what is readable remains consistent across different vernacular?
Well, that goes down to the training data and the algorithms that have come out from the machine learning. So it's about getting the right training data in there. So it's like anything really in this space. There will be a standard English or a standard Dutch that's being used. And actually, let's not forget that, we're in education, and the biggest headache that, somebody said to me yesterday, which I couldn't believe they said, considering, I won't say the company, the reason why head teachers can't sleep at night is to do with grades, not necessarily safeguarding.
Right.
because that's where they're often hit most. I'm not saying this, I think it's a balance, but it's, you know, if you look at how children are examined or how we take them through education, yes, the way we communicate may be, you know, in slight dialects, etc., but actually the way we actually ask them to communicate and show their learning outcomes, that is a standard. So, but machine learning and the training data will support that difference as well.
Okay. Are there solutions apart from just the technology? Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really happy as, you know, obviously I'm here working for a tech company, but there is, and I'll give you some solutions, but it may help you realise just why you potentially want to actually find a tech solution for it. So in terms of working out if something's a reliable source, it's not the only thing, but actually just seeing if there's an about page, because often sources that aren't reliable don't tell you that who the author is. So even getting your students to do those simple checks is really important. In terms of when you yourselves are providing information content in a PowerPoint or using ProWise software, or however way you're getting over content, actually by sharing with the students where you had sourced that information, actually starts a discussion about, well, actually I used the BBC site, you know, and why did I choose that? Because, you know, it's seen as a reliable source. I know who the author is. In terms of readability, readability is a really tricky one. And in terms of, again, we're a very mission-driven organisation. And for us, one of the things we're trying to do in the campaign that we'll speak about in a moment, I'm sure, is get over the message that actually we need to use communication which is simple. We shouldn't be using convoluted language. And this is one of the issues about the internet, you know. It's easier to write in a complex way than in a simpler way, but that doesn't help communicate. It's actually more intelligent to keep your sentences short, to use connectives between your short sentences, to not overuse vocabulary. There's little things you can do, but they are time consuming. So using a different solution can help.
It's a great frustration to me when I look at someone doing something formal that they think formal is more complicated sentence construction. Ashley, from what Layla's just said, it sounds a little bit like we just need to do more teaching of sort of internet literacy and just understanding how the content is there, why it's there, and do you have time to do that?
Yeah, there's time to make time to teach them that little bit of how to use the internet properly. What is a reliable source? There's a tiny bit of time that we could squeeze that in, but our main focus is maths and literacy every single day. So to try and then squeeze that into your already packed week, when you'll just have to make time to make a presentation yourself anyway, just seems a bit.
Yeah, it's always a
Why
challenge.
would you?
And do you have a sense of what the right age is to start teaching these things?
I think you can start teaching this as young as you need to. I have a 5-year-old, and I think you can start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's just sort of talking teacher speak. You have learning objectives in your lesson, and the problem that we find quite a lot of the time is actually the objective isn't about the knowledge you want the child to acquire. The objective becomes about deciphering and filtering, and then the actual learning objective becomes lost because the time is spent doing something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, certainly from as young an age as possible, and teaching that right the way through at different levels.
And do you, at the secondary, do you have time?
Yeah, I mean, we do teach. We do lots of other things as well as teaching it directly through computing, if you like. We run debates every week, and we have debates. We have had debates that are about fake news, for example. So that again is about educating our children on the sort of safeguarding side of things in terms of their understanding what they're actually looking at. Doesn't have to always be done through technology.
Cool. And Layla, you slipped in something about a campaign.
Yeah, so we're really passionate. As I said, we're mission-led organisations. And so what we've become more and more aware about is that the sector isn't that aware of the internet and the barriers that it can face our learners. So we've got a campaign through TES. It's going to run for the next 6 months. Hopefully over the next 6 months, it's going to grow in volume. We've got articles to help educators not just understand the issue, but how you can start addressing it. We've got our partners like ProWise who are adding resources and tools to that site for you to go and use and trial. So really it's quite a thought leadership piece in one way, but it's also practical. We're trying to raise the awareness, but give you as educators, the experts, the tools to actually try and harness this incredible resource, but in a way that's going to really increase your learning outcomes and results, we believe. So we're really proud of it, and hopefully, you know, in a month or 2 months' time when we're doing this room will be packed because the awareness of what we need to do about the internet will have grown.
Thank you. And you guys at ProWise are part of supporting that, and we're grateful for that. Anything you want to add about that?
Yeah, one of the reasons why we think this campaign is really important for us is we want to support our customers as well with that awareness, and we want to give them the opportunity with machine learning to offer them a safe environment. And if we can implement that in the environment where our users already work in, then that's a perfect match. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So this was launched this week. This was launched this week. I hope that all of you who have found this interesting and think that there is an issue that needs to be addressed in terms of digital content and how accessible that is in terms of readability, reliability, and so on. Have a look. Visit the sites on tes.com, as you can see, and give us some feedback too. Get involved in the debate. Raise the awareness back in your schools and in your networks so that we can ensure that the wonders of the web, the wonders of all the technology that we're seeing around here at BET this week, and the various other shows that might be going on across the street in the education show and elsewhere, all of the wonders of all of that are available to everyone and not restricted because of the intellectual nature of the content. Thank you all very much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend recovering from the exertions of wandering around, gazing at all of this jazzy stuff. And hope to see you again next year, if not before. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have time for a couple of questions if we have any from the